as long as there have been humans on Earth, we have looked up into the night sky at all the stars and, of course, our moon. Responsible for our tides and moderating our planet's wobble, giving us our seasons, the moon has always been there for us. It was also the center of early space exploration, with Neil Armstrong giving us the incredibly famous line,
"One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind."
Hello, I am Robert Costello, and in around 300 seconds, you will learn about our past, present, and future with the moon and NASA. We started the look to the moon as a destination in 1961 with the start of the Apollo program. Motivated by the leading USSR equivalent, NASA was tasked with putting the first man on the moon by President John F. Kennedy.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
To accomplish this, NASA needed to pull from their previous programs. There was the Mercury program, which focused on solo flights into orbit for a relatively short period of time, and then the Gemini program, which put multiple people into the pod and had them orbit for up to around 2 weeks. In the Gemini program, there was a strong emphasis on preparing for the Apollo program. Despite the extensive preparations, the Apollo program's first mission, Apollo 1, ended up in flames. A malfunction in wiring sent a blaze through the rocket, tragically killing the 3-man crew inside. NASA, not wanting to risk any more astronauts, went back to the drawing board to ensure the safety of the crew. There were 6 more uncrewed missions until NASA felt confident enough to send people back up in Apollo 7. While this crew did not go to the moon, it was a critical success, restoring faith in the Apollo program. Eventually, we arrived at the famous mission Apollo 11, which sent astronauts Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins to the moon in 1969. Only Neil and Buzz would touch down on the moon though, as Michael was tasked with staying in orbit on their command module. The astronauts would spend just shy of a full day on the moon's surface before launching back up to meet Michael on the command module. Another lesser known but still famous mission is Apollo 13. Their aim was to go back to the moon. But 56 hours into the long flight, an oxygen tank exploded. This caused the crew to rush into the lunar module as a lifeboat of sorts, and return back to Earth as soon as possible. It was only 5 years later when the Apollo program would be shut down due to its cost and loss of popularity. Although the program had a relatively short lifespan, it was a wild success, sending in total 12 astronauts to the moon's surface. NASA shifted their focus closer to home, and the lunar missions would be a thing of the past. That was until 2019. 50 years after the Apollo 11 mission, NASA announced the Artemis Program, which would see Americans back on the moon, and this time, to stay. The plan is to launch a space station similar to the ISS to handle surface-to-orbit travel to and from the moon. Then our astronauts will land on the south pole of the moon, since that's where we believe most of the moon's ice is within sunlight. Then, they will stay in a pressurized space camp that will be upgraded with every mission. The first manned mission, Artemis 3, hopes to last around a week. NASA believes that, at its peak, astronauts will be able to stay for up to 2 months on the moon. The goals set out for Artemis are labeled as discovery, economic opportunity, and inspiration for the next generation. NASA wants to reignite America's passion for discovery in its grand populace as well as the future generations. NASA also believes that these missions will bolster the economy with new jobs and new industries to support. Outside of their mission statement, NASA comes off as very enthusiastic, saying that the moon is just a stepping stone to further ventures toward Mars. The first mission of many in the Artemis program was scheduled for late August, but due to ongoing issues with the rocket system, they have delayed the launch until the first minutes of November 14th, with their launch window opening at 12:07 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This rocket will be launching where most do, including the original Apollo 11 and most other famous rockets. They will launch from the Kennedy Space Center on Cape Canaveral, Florida.
3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis 1. We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
All 4 RS-25 engines on the core stage and 2 solid rocket boosters now propelling the vehicle at 128 miles per hour.
If you enjoyed today's episode and wanted to learn more in around 300 seconds, please be sure to subscribe right here on YouTube, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and like us on Facebook. Thank you for your time and keep wondering.
This program was produced by ZTV at the University of Akron. Do you want to gain experience in video production, professional social media, or working with real clients? Visit the UA School of Communications online or follow us on social media to learn more. ZTV. Make media, make a difference.